Aloha. This video I wanted to share a perspective that I had from something that I've been thinking about earlier today, as far as the extremes of the most high extremes, because there's an extreme of going into the darkest separation from a spirit or soul essence, which can be seen as locking yourself into technology, locking yourself into the scientism community, locking yourself into space, NASA, SpaceX, the university system. Scientism, evolutionism system is based upon separation from spirit, completely removing your relationship, that the relationship, just like the scientism community, I didn't think about this before, just like the scientism community removes alchemy from the consciousness of the people, like the pineal gland has been removed from the consciousness of the people. Scientism removes the soul from the consciousness of the people when science or scientism is worshipped as the end-all be-all of our reality. So the Big Bang Theory, the law of gravity, the law of relativity, all these laws that are generated by the colonial universe system, which is the university system, all of these laws that have been generated by this system so that it can be worshipped have their roots planted in the separation from spirit, to completely destroy the relationship or even the acknowledgement or understanding or overstanding of the reality that alchemy exists, period. To leave the masses completely out of balance, to leave the masses completely lost in limbo and pretty much codependent, severely, completely codependent, just like the human resources that we have are based on, like, you can't even live on the earth without feeding in or playing into the fiat currency system. You are lost in the reality of some kind of enslavement down to your basic human needs. That's not a coincidence. That's not a mistake. That's not something to be proud of, which is what the evolutionism theory, the technological world, the so-called innovation world, it takes pride in the way humanity, in the relationship that humanity has with each other and with the earth plane as a whole. It takes pride in this death and destruction. It takes pride in the destroying of the ocean. It takes pride in the so-called climate change, the stuff that led up to climate change. It takes pride in the fossil fuel industry. Everything that is completely and utterly destructive in reference to that which is natural, that which is normal in this colonial universe, is to be looked at with a sense of pride. And you don't see it that way because it's displayed in other kinds of ways. All of your commercials, all of your, you know where I'm coming from when I say that. So that idea, when held up next to the relationship that the indigenous people had with nature, spirit, and the harmonics of this reality as a whole, that you can see how the destructive intelligence is pretty much in charge of this reality. It's in charge of what's really going on here as far as the profiting off of imbalance, and the profiting off of not having any real connections with our reality. Everything has been fabricated by the system in order for you to believe yourself into thinking that the system can only provide your future for you. The system can only provide your basic human needs for you. The system can only provide your happiness, love, your well-being. When the system has to set itself up to play that role for you, the system itself makes itself out to be God. The system that we are talking about is made out to be God. And if the system plays the role of being your God, the only way it can play that role is if you have no understanding of spirit. You have no relationship with your soul. You have no relationship with the Most High. You have no relationship with nature. The only way, the same way a kidnapper installs the Stockholm Syndrome into his or her victim, when they kidnap, like, say, a child, and then the child develops the Stockholm Syndrome and starts to love in some kind of sick way, love their captors, love the kidnappers, and in some cases defend their kidnappers because that depth has gone so far. The same thing happens when that's like a micro scale. It's an individual's universe being completely traumatized. The collective has been traumatized with ignorance, traumatized with the military-industrial complex and war and destruction, the prison-industrial complex, the genocide and massacres that are completely ignored, the slavery, the racism, the destroying of the divine feminine, the destroying of the divine masculine. Every single balance of our harmonics has been destroyed and uprooted with this perspective of the scientism worshipping community. This is the post-traumatic stress disorder of the collective human consciousness. We have been locked into a system that is parasiting off of the essence of who and what we are outside of the physical reality. Your soul essence, your everything that you are, your spirit, who you are. So if you believe, whatever kind of way you believe in spirit, whether you come from a religious perspective, whatever kind of way, if you understand that the you that you are has nothing to do with your fingernails, your hair, your makeup, your skin color, your tone, anything. The spirit that you are is a spirit. That's who you are. That's you are the soul that you are. If you understand that, and then you understand that the system is designed to run and separate you from that reality, then you can see that when the system itself references God, it's not talking about the same most high energy that you feel naturally in your essence when you say, okay, well, I'm a spirit that has zero separation from spirit itself. I'm a soul that has zero separation from spirit itself, having a physical experience. So the system itself is completely out of balance, backwards and upside down, yet they claim to be connect. They say, in God we trust, on the money. They say, God bless America, on the presidents say this. They say that they're Christian. They say that they're this. They say that they're that. So what, all this stuff that they say, what energy are they really talking about when you realize their actions? When you look at their actions and how they make, how they live their lives, how they parasite off of the consciousness itself. You can see that it's all an illusion, it's all a show. And what I was seeing was, earlier today I was thinking about this. There's two extremes, and then you can see where you fit somewhere in between. Because ultimately this is the grid itself of these two extremes is the extreme. Like the thought this even up is the extreme, but you as the experience fit somewhere in between those two extremes. So one extreme is what I just explained, which is the ultimate separation from the soul essence. For whatever reason, it doesn't matter in this explanation, the ultimate separation from reconnecting and at all understanding your soul essence and buying completely into the physical reality. From like a human perspective, the physical reality, like this is your only reality. You have no spirit, you have no soul, there is no Most High, there are no angels, there is no nothing, there's nothing. It's just whatever this concrete jungle reality is, and that's it. And then when you die, then you're actually the body, so you become dirt, and you're just dirt now, and that's the end of your world. That's it. There's nothing else. So there's the extreme of having zero spirit, zero soul, and then there's the extreme within that is to create a universe, a world that convinces other people that they themselves have no soul, have no spirit, and are only of the physical reality. The extreme that separates itself from the Most High means to worship its own self. You can see an example of that would be like to worship your own intellect. So let's say like the destructive intelligence is an intellect that has realized that it can separate itself from the Most High. Expanding further into that separation, worshiping yourself, you now have created a God space. It's synthetic, but if you convince other people to not only separate themselves, but to worship that separation who originally separated itself, then you're seeing where I'm coming from now, as far as like the extreme separations and everywhere in between. So in order to convince people of whatever it is that you're trying to convince them of, you have to de-convince them of what is natural, what is organic to their existence, and condition them into another kind of universe or reality. An example of this could be the colonial universe, could be the university system, the evolutionism theory, the dinosaur hoax, the fabricated laws that have been generated by the university system to make you believe in the materialistic design solely, only, as the end-all be-all of your reality, and you exist in limbo, just like the last video where I was talking about Joe Rogan. The conclusions will never be made. The story will be spoken about, but you will never get to any kind of understanding, or overstanding, because in order to maintain dominance over like the soul essence, they must be kept in the dark. There has to be some kind of separation there. So in questioning your reality, you are moving closer to yourself, your understanding. The university system, mainstream media, alternative news, all that stuff has zero interest in you understanding itself. This is why the globe model, the heliocentric model is designed to keep that out of balance nature out there. So you don't know who you are. You only know what you are told to be like and who you are told to be as and what you are told you were before you are who you are now. Generations before you, even the particles before you, every single part of your reality has been fabricated. The experience has been created for you to worship the experience instead of understanding, or at least being open to the understanding of that intuitive spark, something that's inside of you that says there's something else. This is not me. This body is not who I am. There's something else here. I know that there's something else here. One example is the experiences that I have when I dream. The experiences that I have when I go on a psychedelic trip. Outside of all the experiences itself, what is that experience? What is that intelligence? What is you? What are you as you're experiencing that? Because the you that's experiencing that is not your body is, and your body is pretty much asleep. So the you that's there, or people who have out-of-body experience, people who astral travel and all that other stuff. There's so many other complex layers that add credibility to the soul essence of who and what you are. And in order to create a system where people separate themselves to an extreme degree in order to worship an upside down version of the Most High. See, the university system is, with its arrogance and its ego and all of its laws and its idea of innovation and its idea of being the superhero with this whole climate change stuff to take care of you, with the movies, the desensitization program that's happening, the politics, the government, the way they all play a role in conditioning you to think and act a certain way, is that way is to make you think in the system, as the system. So this goes into the Alex Jones and the TYT and all those other stories. They are having you focus on the system. Just like I explained in the last video, Joe Rogan, he plays the dominant role on his television show. He's the king. He's the god of his show. But who's a bigger king than him? Who's a bigger, smarter god than him? He bows down to the scientism community. He bows down to the university system. He bows down to the mainstream reality energetically, not necessarily believing what CNN and all that other stuff says. But ultimately, he does, because there's 0 degrees of separation between the university system, CNN, and the government. Period. They're all one entity that is designed to make the entire population within the colonial universe submit to their domain, submit to their so-called intellect, submit to their laws, submit to their Godhead reality that creates this lack to create haves and have-nots. So those are all those kind of different examples of how that design, and Eddie Bravo actually mentioned it in that video. He mentioned that, I don't understand how you could believe all this stuff about the government and how the government is full of shit, but when you start talking about World Trade Center 7 and how it went down, how you believe the stories that are pumped out by the government. He actually says this is some kind of hypnosis that is going on here. And that's actually true. He's saying that this is a hypnosis going on here. He's talking about overall people who act and think like that. But I think what he's not really seeing is that the very people that he's speaking to act and think like that. So if they act and think like that, and they have a microphone, a radio show, a TV, basically a TV show, to project that mentality, they themselves are hypnotized. He is surrounded by individuals who are hypnotized themselves. So what kind of energies are they promoting through their show? That is itself a hypnosis. They are designed to hypnotize. And it's easy to see in the mainstream media hypnotizes people. The flicker rate of the television, the theories, the way they make people hate themselves. Hollywood, celebrityism, they're creating a universe. And when you go down to the alchemy of it all, when you realize that there is an intent to make you think and act a certain way, then you can see that this is a collective hypnosis. If you can see it from like alchemy and the alchemy existing. Alchemy is the fabric of our reality, the blending of the soul and the soul and the body, or spiritual understanding and a physical understanding, physics, true science. So you have the true science having a relationship with the spirit. That's alchemy. So you yourself are a manifestation of some kind of alchemy, having an experience in some kind of way. So the design, the half-ass version of the design to have you worship only half of the half, a quarter of the reality. So you only worship, you have zero connection with the soul, because your university system, basically your God, has zero understanding or even acknowledgement of the soul. This is why the university system is inherently atheist. Because if you have even the slightest inkling about what's going on in that other side of reality, which could be understood as, some people can see it from the perspective of like the divine feminine. And so you have like the curves and then the straight lines. So like the curves could be like the divine feminine or your understanding of your soul. Meanwhile, your scientific side of that alchemy could be understood as like the divine masculine, very linear, straightforward, get to the point, get shit done. You know, you can see where I'm coming from now. So that imbalance, once you create imbalance, then you control the entire universe over generations. Now you've made yourself out to be God, and you've made yourself out to be king and God. So you are the God because you have chosen to separate yourself from the entire experience as a whole and only exist in one side of the experience. What makes you king is that you convince others that you have domain over them. And also what makes you God is their belief in you as king. But your true understanding, through keeping things a secret, through keeping things like, this is what the government does. They keep everything a secret. This is how they make themselves out to be God and king. How they make themselves out to be God is by keeping things secret. How they make themselves out to be king is to bully you into their universe as the end-all be-all of the knowingness of the reality. This is why you have King Joe Rogan, but he's still just a petty little king in the Godhead universe of destructive intelligence. So that's that one-sided world, which is the world that is the status quo of our reality right now. For most people, they're just kind of like trying to get by which is the intent. Just get by, provide your resources, take care of your family, which is why the reproduction program gets expanded so much, so you can stay in that world. You can never challenge the extremes because you're still caught up in trying to get by, trying to provide for your family. You're too busy trying to maintain your own kingdom. With make sure that your queen or your queen and your princes and princesses are taken care of. In order to do that, you got to work, which is exactly why the reproduction program gets played over and over again. That's the intention there. Meanwhile, the universe that created that system of mini king and mini god dominion over you can expand around you, as long as you're busy, as long as you're distracted, as long as you're caught up in the world that they and the universe that they created for you. So all that stuff exists in the box. Expand even further out of that box, and what I was realizing is that the essence of the experience as a whole gets lost. Your meaning, your purpose, your soul, your music. A small example of this would be a Beethoven, a Debussy, and a Mozart working at Home Depot. How many of them are working at Target and McDonald's right now? That's a small example. Just magnify that. Just expand that all the way out to millions of Mozarts, millions of meanings and purposes that are being maximized. What that does to the entire consciousness. So how we get lost is that you can go to the extreme of, so that exists, your meaning and your purpose, that exists in time, in the moment, in that flicker rate that's happening. Like a movie goes on and on and on and on, flicker, 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 flicker. It creates a movie where things are moving. So time itself moves that way. A low budget a way to keep us in a certain frequency is like the click of the clock, the seconds of the day, the minutes of the day. That's not natural. That wasn't created by anything other than the destructive intelligence, which means to manipulate your actual heartbeats and breaths of the day. That's actual time. Each beat of your heart, each breath, and the relationship between each breath and each heartbeat. Because that's involving emotion, that involves feeling, empathy, compassion, relationships, the experience as a whole. That's true time. True time is your relationship to your heartbeat, your breath, and that relationship to other people's nature as a whole. That whole experience, baseline in full go mode of meaning and purposeville. The time that gets created by the artificial gods and kings that are in the imbalanced nature of the destructive intelligence box is a farce. It's been made up, along with your history, along with your laws of the universe and so forth. All that stuff has been generated for you to think and act a certain way, down to the very frequencies of who and what you are, down to the very frequencies of how you experience your reality, like with time. So we get caught up in all these boxes and we miss who and what we are because we have adopted a one-sided reality. Now, you can adopt a one-sided reality in the extremes of low vibrations, and you can adopt a one-sided reality in the extremes of high vibrations. what happens in both of those extremes is that the essence of who and what you are, your focus, your experience, your meaning and purpose gets lost. So one way of extreme separation in one polarization is to hate the Most High, to hate and completely disconnect with everything in your reality, to not want to live. Another vibration is another feeling, like another part of that is to be a living dead. You have no meaning or purpose. You have no essence of life. Everything that you are is based upon a synthetic reality. That's just another version of not wanting to live. What's the difference between not wanting to live and being synthetically alive? It's basically crumbs. There's no difference there. You're still living in relation to or reference to something else that's outside of you, and that extreme is what's being pumped out by the university system. That's one way. The extreme of nothingness, the furthest separation that you can get from your soul essence, and the extremes of being so enveloped in the idea of the soul essence, being that you're still in a physical vessel, being so enveloped in the idea of the soul essence that you actually relinquish your experience. Your meaning and your purpose gets lost. Your focus, your intention to have a physical experience gets lost in one extreme over the other. What I wanted to relate to this is how we get once we get caught up in either those extremes or caught up in the limbo of not knowing the balance beams and understanding the reality, or at least on the journey of understanding the reality as a whole, then we start to resent the experience, or we start to resent ourselves, or we start to resent the Most High essence. Whatever it is, it's external. We start to separate ourselves. It's a microcosm of the macrocosm of separation. This is the design of the colonial universe as a whole. We start to separate ourselves from whatever is tangible or within our face, with what we see as responsible for our pain, our suffering, our lack of connection. Whatever it is, we have to externalize it, and because it's too much, it's too heavy to internalize. And since we've been conditioned to be internally weak for so many generations, our entire experience has been externalized. When our entire experience gets externalized, then we lose something. Just as much as any extremes, that's the thing. Any extremes will, if that's made to be your reality, it will not be your reality anymore. It'll be the extreme that you subscribe to. So this is how I interpret the relationship, the balances between creative and destructive intelligence, and kind of interpret how the extremes of this reality have gone so far out of balance that we destroy nature. And it's not us, it's this creative and it's this destructive intelligence that has separated us from the balances of nature with illusion and so on and so forth. And it's based upon, like I said in previous videos, it's all based upon the level of consciousness of the people themselves. So this is how you can say, well, they aren't ever doing anything to us. We're actually letting them do it. Well, that's where that definition comes in. That's where you can, where people can say that there's no they, but it doesn't stop there. You can't just say, well, there's no they. They is us. That's empty. There's more to it. So the more to it that I'm seeing is that yes, they are doing some fucked up stuff. At the same time, the level of consciousness is allowing that to happen. At the same time, the Most High is also allowing this experience to take place. In my opinion, and see, that's where a lot of people can't really understand it from the extremes. It's like, you believe in God or the Most High or whatever, and he would allow, or she would allow this, the the tragedies to happen, and so on and so forth. And how I interpret that in one way is to see the difference between love and control, and gods and king, and the Most High to the gods, then to kings, then to... See, all this stuff in between is an illusion. The spirit essence is who and what you are. But in order to create separation, division, and control, you have to make step-down versions. You have to make an experience where energy gets funneled. So gods get created with a little g, and then kings get created, and then so on and so forth. And to make a king, illusions are created, in a sense, in one sense, to where you have like the queen today. She's a queen largely because, in one sense, the fiat currency system, which is a giant illusion, which adds to the separation program, and it is a direct result of the destructive intelligence in order to serve itself. So you have, she's a queen in that world, in that universe, but who is her God? What is her God? Because if she was really connected to the balance, the Most High, there would be a balance in this reality if you're a true king and a true queen. But that's not the system that we are experiencing right now. And let me go back to the Most High allowing through love this experience to exist, because the Most High, how I see it, is not going to lower itself to a little g status or a king or queen status, which is mostly about control within a particular system. The experience itself, the allowance to have the experience itself, is what makes the Most High the Most High. The extremes of having the extreme of the destructive intelligence and the extreme of the creative intelligence, and allowing consciousness to grow organically, naturally, on its own. That's the highest love that there is. For you to do it on your own, for you to find your own fire, your own essence, against all odds, against all of the destructive intelligence, everything going against you, without any kind of influence, like direct influence by the Most High energy. Yes, from our perspective, some jacked up things are going to happen. But that's the difference between love and control. See, any kind of engagement in that realm, in the extreme essence of the Most High essence, is going to be seen as control. Well, I want this to go this way. I want this to happen this way. that takes the essence out of the experience. And that's where this kind of manipulative version of the Most High comes in through the mainstream religions as well. Well, the way I interpret God is that he did this and he did that, and this is where you have the God-fearing mentality, and then you have the whole, well, God smite thee and did this and all that other stuff. And if you ask me, the Most High's got other things to do to be focusing on like one particular experience. If that experience can run on its own, like this earth plane realm is a well-oiled machine in a sense. It's a well-oiled self-sustaining system where the experiencers have a choice and some sense of free will to be subject to the destructive intelligence, or raise their consciousness and balance the relationship between the creative and destructive intelligence, and not be subject to the downward spirals of entities that mean to make themselves out to be little gods and little kings by dumbing down people. The mainstream system gets lost in those little god mentalities and says, well, this is about good and evil, and we're on the good side because we follow this religion, and the bad guys, they'll pay. They're gonna get theirs, and that exists in some kind of way. Yes, ultimately everybody is going to go back to the source and have to go through that catalog of your experiences, your choices that you made with the idea of free will that you have experienced, and what you did with that. What did you do with your experience? That's the thing that I really want to focus on with this. Is what did you do with your experience? Did you separate yourself completely by falling far into the separation program? Or did you make your way, or did you separate yourself by giving your entire experience away to the idea of being the Most High, like making yourself out to be God, or worshiping only that space and not really having your experience? These are the two extremes. Like what was your meaning and your purpose? Did you actually experience that meaning and purpose? Did you tap into those harmonies that are who and what you are as the soul essence? Did you utilize the experience for what it was and what it is, or did you become subject to the experience? Getting caught up in the mentality of the experience itself, the limitations of the experience itself, is the challenge. So you're either going to do that, or you're going to come back to your center mass. The balance is within yourself, within the experience, within your meaning and your purpose and your relationship to the Most High, and understanding where you fit in that world. You're going to come back to that space and walk through time as the experience presents itself, taking your highest good, your highest experience with you. So the ultimate love is to allow you to have an experience. That's the Most High love. And we don't understand how, a lot of the times we don't understand how deep love can go, because we don't understand and have a relationship with our own spirits. We're so enveloped by the physical reality, We judge the soul and the Most High Spirit based upon the perspective and the foundation of the physical reality, as opposed to understanding and perceiving the physical reality from the foundation and the perspective of the soul and the spirit. That's a different world. That's a different universe completely. But we have been convinced to flip and reverse that reality and focus on a downward spiral as opposed to the upward spiral of life, the tree of life that is consistently growing. There is a meaning and a purpose. If you have a meaning and a purpose for waking up every morning, you best believe that your soul and the Most High has a meaning and a purpose for the entire experience as a whole. So what is that? That's not your responsibility. If it were, then you would be knowing that. But ultimately, we are in an experience for the experience. We are not lined up from a density perspective to be building universes, which is another perspective of why the heliocentric model, the Big Bang theory, gravity theory, relativity theory gets created around our consciousness in order to make the individuals, the entities who have created those illusions out to be your God, out to be your kings, your controllers. They have to create limitations and structures and linear thought patterns around your level of consciousness to control you. And within that reality, you become enslaved because you don't know, you have no connections to that which is natural. You have no connection to natural time. You have no connection to what time is, or love, or death, which is why everything is so confusing. Birth certificates, death certificates, the Gregorian calendar, your clock ticking, all this is separate from the natural time that is your heartbeat and your breath and your relationship between your heartbeat and your breath and the collective heartbeat and the collective breath and the collective focus and your focus. That's actual time. Time is the way that it's presented to us with seconds and minutes and hours in the day is only setting the foundation for you to have that linear physical perspective of like time, light years, and basically the heliocentric universe model. That whole idea of reality plays in reference to your ideas of time. Everything is connected to make you believe into a particular universe. When you when you are in the universe of limitation, then you submit your relationship to the universe of the infinite. So you become a limited program in a sense. And when you are like a 3.5 floppy disk consciousness, then you're going to have a 3.5 floppy disk Windows 98 at best sort of reality, because you've been locked into this tower. You've been locked into this this level of memory, this level of this RAM, this speed of experience, the accessibility of like America Online, the American dream. You get separated from your maximum potentials because the illusions become thicker than our natural design. And this is what we're revealing and unveiling. Yeah, so they say the silica in the water hardened and turned into opal. Okay, whatever you say, guys. But yeah, petrified wood, opal, silica, silica trees, stuff that's been missing. So how this relates to what I was talking about is basically how we get a half-assed version of our reality. At best, we don't know the depths of even basic history, which is like a good example of this is that you don't even know, like a lot of people who don't know, like at one time I didn't know about the Aboriginal Americans, so-called black, so-called African American people. I didn't know. I thought my ancestors came over here on slave ships from Africa. Now understanding that all of that shit was just made up, and then to create that colonial mentality, and that the melanated people had been all across the earth plane before anybody was even moving anywhere in the European nations. So what are the implications of that? Well, you're not even allowed to go into the implications of those stories if you don't know that the stories exist in the first place. So the same thing with this silica crystalline structure reality, and the balances of nature and the existence of your soul essence and the Most High, and outside of the university mentality of the dominance and submissive role-playing game and the extremes of everything. We basically, there's more to our reality. So I just wanted to share this moment from that perspective that I had earlier. But yeah, thank you. Before I close this out, thank you again to everybody who shows support to this channel, and likes and leave comments and shares and all that. I really appreciate that. Yeah, so thank you for joining me, and until next time, from all my relations, peace, love, and harmony.